Censoring the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and women. How'd we let them make praying a microaggression?
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I had a little technical issue where it had decided that was the perfect time to tell me about an issue that I was having right now, right when I'm about to go live. So it's all good. It's just an issue with Rumble, which I'll just upload it to Rumble. We don't have live chat in that anyway. So it is what it is. It's always something on the technology front. Am I right? So again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Deion's Daily Dose. We have a very special guest today. We have a candidate for judge for LaPorte County Circuit Court. And that's important because, as we've seen across the nation, our judges and our DAs are very, very important. They are the ones that keep the peace. Yes, the police officers arrest them, but without our district attorneys to charge them and without our judges to sentence them and have proper trials, the legal system it's only as good as the people involved in it. So today we have Chuck Watterson, who is running for LaPorte County Circuit Judge. The position is currently being held by Judge Alavizos, who we should all know and for the most part love. He's done a really good job. He's created a legacy, and it's going to be a tough act to follow. But here we go. Welcome, please, ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Watterson. Whoops, wrong button. There we go. There he is.
Hey, thanks for having me, Deion.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. So hopefully everyone took the time to read your bio so that you don't have to rehash it here. But if they didn't, really quickly, you've been an attorney since when?
2017 is when I graduated law school, and immediately upon graduating, I had a job secured with the LaPorte County Prosecutor's Office as a deputy prosecutor. And you kind of start from the bottom and work your way up. I worked with level 6 felonies and misdemeanors for quite some time, tried a few cases. I was there for a few years and then went over to the private sector in hopes of moving my career along. And I worked as a defense attorney, public defender for this county as well. So, and that was mostly criminal.
Okay, awesome. So you have a good deal of experience in the criminal aspect of the court systems.
Correct. That's what I've spent most of my career doing, and what's my true passion is criminal law.
Okay, awesome. That's really good. Not only because that's generally what you'll be dealing with, but also we see a lot of people that run for judge. I mean, we've even had federal judges get appointed to benches with less trial experience than you. So that's a pretty good start. What made you want to be a judge?
So it's always been my dream from the beginning. I mean, we all start with our dreams of being an astronaut or a veterinarian or things like that. And then I couldn't stomach the thought of, gravity and being in space. So I switched to more realistic goals. And when I was in college, my family always knew I wanted to be an attorney, and my wife really pushed me to go to law school. So I applied, took the LSAT, went to law school, and then my dream was always to eventually be a judge. I've just always respected the position, the decisions they have to make, the love of the law. Our Constitution has always been my biggest thing. I remember being a child, probably 6 years old, on my way to football practice. My dad handed me this little book, and it was the Constitution. And we'd go through the amendments. I'd read them. He'd ask me questions, quiz me. And it's just been a love of mine since the beginning. And that's a thing I've taken an oath on with both jobs, prosecutor, defense attorney, what I hope to take an oath on as judge. But I will always defend the Constitution. And that's been a real big passion of mine. But to get more strictly to the judge thing, it's always been a dream to be a judge, and not only a judge, the LaPorte Circuit Court judge. And that's got some vanity to it, because, and by vanity, I mean the courtroom. The courtroom is a place you walk into, and it's just grandiose and beautiful and stained glass. It's old. It's nice. And it's always drawn me to there. And that's where I practiced when I was a public defender, was in circuit court as well. And
okay,
just my relationship with Judge Alavizos and watching him through the years and respecting the work that he does. That I called it in my bio esteemed. I mean, everyone goes in there and they know who Judge Alavisos is. They know he's gonna rule based on the law and the facts that are presented to him, and there's not gonna be friends involved. He makes the decision as the law provides, and that's what judges should do.
I'm really, really happy to hear you say it. Not only mention the Constitution, but it does help, I guess, to know the level of esteem that you have for Judge Alavisos, because those are some big shoes to fill. How do you think you can, I guess, leave his legacy behind to be respected, but also create your own?
Sure. So I think that's a great question. His legacy is his legacy. I mean, he's done a lot of great things on the bench. And I hope to continue the great things on the bench, but do it my way. There's some things that we can all disagree on it and look at and want to change. Now, before I get into any more answers, I can't make any pledges or promises. That's just part of the judicial ethics as far as running for judicial office. You can't talk about current legal issues, no comments on current legal issues, and you're never going to hear me disparage my opponents either. We call them opponents because that's what they are. I mean, we're going against each other in the primary, but we have a good relationship together. So to continue on to your question, as far as what I hope to do is I hope to continue the work he's done, but do it my way. And there's some things that I want to improve on, not saying they're bad, but there's certain things like the juvenile justice system that a lot of people may not know circuit court is solely responsible for. Everything that happens in the juvenile justice system is under the guise of the circuit court. So what I want to do is put some teeth back into the juvenile justice system. There's great people in there right now, as far as staff and members of society that oversee it and run it. But I want to put some teeth back into it, because I think that our juveniles are the precious, part of our society. We have a chance to take them while they're young and get them into a position where they're to succeed, and we can leave a legacy for them to lead us into the future. And that's a big passion of mine, is making sure that I will work hand in hand with educators, the officers, everyone from the beginning steps, to make sure that our juveniles are found from the beginning and identified as maybe high risk or just low risk, keeping those separate, and then working on a way to where when our teachers or educators find a child that needs to be, not necessarily rehabilitated, I don't like that word, but guided into a direction with mentors or whatever we can do to guide them on a path to where we're setting them up to where, hey, here's the keys to the future. It's yours now. And then we've done everything we can. I'd be remiss not to try. So
I'm actually happier than you can possibly know to hear that you really want to focus on the juvenile justice system here, because I have a personal experience with that. My youngest son went through a little phase where he was extremely rebellious, breaking the law, doing, dumb shit as a kid. And there was no recourse other than, him getting arrested. We don't have a scared straight program. The police are not allowed to handcuff the kids and throw them in the back of the car as a scare tactic unless they're, actually being arrested. There's a lot of things that I think there's room for improvement when it comes to the juvenile justice system. So I'm really, like I said, I'm really glad to hear you say that, there are changes that you want to make.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we're already working on it through my current position as chief deputy prosecutor. I'm on a couple boards with the juvenile programs, and one is a juvenile diversion program. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's kind of a situation where, first-time offenders and status offenders, low-risk individuals, it kind of gives them a chance to say, hey, here's what your future could hold, but if you remain course and stay on your best behavior and follow these guidelines and the support system that you have, everything can be better. And this can just be a mistake that you learn from. And I think we all learn from mistakes.
Oh yeah.
As an attorney, especially, it is your job to make mistakes, but then you better be able to fix them. And not everyone's right all the time. And especially with our youth, their brains aren't fully developed. They're not fully developed until they're in their 20s. And by then it's almost too late. So if we can get to these at-risk youths, or even the youths that are just minor offenses that are just adding up, like you said, dumb stuff, it's just the stuff that adds up. If we can get to that early, then we have a chance to really, and I don't want to say mold, but I say guide our youths to becoming upstanding citizens and avoid that continuing the youth delinquency matters into adulthood, because that's what we see with most cases now. Is you see a lot of juvenile delinquencies, things that could have been, not saying we're going to be able to stop it all,
Right.
but we can do what we can to try to stop it.
Okay. Phenomenal. So there is, well, one of the things that I want to address. So you work currently at the prosecutor's office. So your boss is the prosecutor. Assuming you win, you'll be now hearing cases brought forward by him. Is it going to be kind of awkward hearing cases from your former boss, or is that something that just is part of being in the legal community?
So yeah, that's another great question. Yeah, it would seem awkward, leaving one place to go to another, and then you're directly not necessarily not adversarial, but the thing that makes it easier is that my one job would be to uphold the law.
Right.
Read the law. There's no friends, there's no enemies. It's what does the law say in this particular situation? What evidence can come in? What are the arguments being made? Is there precedent for this? So it's not going to be awkward for me. Sean and I have a great relationship. He appointed me to this position as chief deputy and put the trust of the prosecutor's office in my hands. And I think we've worked well together. But that position has just given me more experience in a different court than circuit court, just to kind of find the lay of the land. Now I know how prosecutors' minds work. I know how defense attorneys' minds work. But if I were to take the bench, that experience just goes into this new position where I now have to decide strictly based on the law what the proper decision is. And that's what my sole focus will be. There will be no awkwardness from either side when it comes to that.
Good deal. Okay. So I know that in Indiana, we have the death penalty. That's just the way it is. I worked at Indiana State Prison where they have X row. So it's a fact. But my son had a question for you, and he would like to know how you personally feel about the death penalty, with the caveat that we know you're a judge, you have to follow the law, but you can still have different feelings about it.
Sure. And so as far as the death penalty goes, Indiana, we don't see it much.
Right. It is rare. It's very rare.
It's rare. And that's because it's one of the reasons is it's expensive, and the thought of, a human life being taken. And generally it's two, because they're there for taking a human life.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as it goes, I mean, no matter what my feelings are, and I can't answer what my feelings are on that because it could come in front of me, but it's the law. It's an available tool that can be used in Indiana. If that comes in front of me, I will do what the law says and take it of the utmost importance, like I would any case. I mean, all the way down to a small claims matter up to a death penalty. It's the same burden on me. I need to decide it based on the law and what's available. So it doesn't matter what my feelings are. I'm going to put everything aside and do what the law says.
So another question I had for you that's really, really important to me. How do you like your steak? My
steak?
Yeah.
Medium rare is almost a little too done for me. So
you're like my son then. He likes it rare.
Yeah, I'm medium rare is what I order. I don't want to say like just a little less. So medium rare.
Yeah, fair. Okay, good. My wife likes it burnt to a crisp, and she's a commie. I can't understand it, but it is what it is. Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Dog person. I'm actually allergic to cats, but I'd pick a dog anyway. I've got two of them, and they're my first two children.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have any children?
I do. I have one 3-year-old daughter, Eleanor, and she is the light of my wife and I's life.
Does she have you wrapped around her little finger?
I more than I care. I care
more than you'll ever admit, right?
She says something and I do it. And sometimes I get a look from mom like, I thought we said no. And I'm like, yeah, but she looked at me.
Right? She's so cute. How can you not?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What I guess is the most important thing that you would say? Well, first, what are the breadth of cases that are handled by the circuit court? Is it everything, or is it only certain types of deals?
So circuit court, I mean, they cover everything. The only thing you're not going to see in circuit court are misdemeanor criminal offenses.
Okay.
So you're going to see level 6 offenses, which are the lowest of the felonies. So level 6 felonies all the way up to murder. And then in the civil realm, you're going to see everything from family law, so divorces, paternity issues, civil cases, tort claims, small claims matters, everything like that's going to be covered. Juvenile law is handled specifically in circuit court and only by circuit court.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, everything you can imagine in the legal world is going to come through circuit court if they've got the jurisdiction for it.
Wow. Okay. Except for misdemeanors go somewhere else.
Misdemeanors in LaPorte go to Superior 3.
Superior.
And,
okay.
Yeah, so that's Judge Thorne, and he's staying until 2026, and then we'll see what happens what he's going to do.
Fair enough. All right. There was another question, but I don't see it. So we're going to move on. What is your favorite, I guess, thing about LaPorte County?
My favorite thing about LaPorte County is that it's kind of a small, bigger town. I just love how anywhere you go, you're going to run into somebody that you know. I love, yeah, you're going to run into somebody, know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
I've prided myself on making good relationships with everybody. That's kind of one thing I've always done. Everybody from people you meet once to people you meet, you meet 1,000 times. I treat everyone the same. And I want everyone to view me as a good person. And that's been my number one goal. I want that as a judge too. But as far as LaPorte County goes, that's one thing I do love is that, the relationships I have with people. And it's near and dear to my heart because the Watterson name is, LaPorte, it's LaPorte, and my family's from LaPorte. My dad is a Marine. And so I was born in North Carolina, moved to San Diego.
Okay.
Eventually went to South Bend, but we ended up back in LaPorte for high school. So I came to LaPorte. I love our sports teams, go Slicers, baseball, football, basketball, every sport imaginable. I've got ties to the community, and I don't foresee myself. Someone actually asked me on a Facebook post, is this just a stepping stone? Do you want to go on to bigger and better pastures? And that's never crossed my mind. It's LaPorte for me. I'm LaPorte proud. And that's what I'll always be. I love our county, and I love our town and the people in it.
Good. Yeah. I think, I don't remember exactly who asked it, but I remember seeing the question, and I think they were referring to, Justice Roberts, I believe. Cause he left pretty quick when he got the call. And I mean, I get it. I get it. The opportunity to serve on the Supreme Court's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. There's no higher, that's it for judges. I mean, there's no going beyond that. That's it.
Yeah.
I get it, but I can see how people would wonder, are you just using this in order to potentially go somewhere else?
Sure.
So it's good that that's not the case. What do you think, aside from the things that you want to do with the office, what do you think separates you from the rest of the herd as far as a candidate goes?
As far as a candidate goes, so I've got great relationships with both candidates. Now, as far as experience goes, it's not a mystery to anyone. They have experience in terms of years on me. Right. But what I think I bring to the table is, it's kind of cliche, but like an infusion of youth. It's something we haven't seen in our court system is a younger judge. I'm 34 years old. I'll be 35 this year. I think the other youngest judge was Judge Stallbrink when he first started. He was in his 30s, and he's going into his 20-something year. Great esteemed judge, great respect by everybody in the legal community. So it's the infusion of youth, but again, that has nothing to do with the job. So what I think is great about the law is that it doesn't matter how much experience or your age, the law is always changing. So, I don't claim to know everything about the law because it changes every minute. You never know what's going to change, but it's your ability to focus on that and to be able to read and understand new cases, the statutes, and to be able to do that is a great tool for any attorney, especially for a judge. So that is one thing I have is I'm a research rat. I want to know the answer before I ask somebody. If I come and ask somebody a question, I will guarantee you I've already read everything I can, and I just want to get their opinion on it. Okay. And that's what I bring to the table, and that's not that I have a lack of trial experience. I've got numerous trials under my belt, criminal, civil, all the way down to small claims. I've done some juvenile fact findings. I'm experienced in it all. Again, the other two candidates have more experience in it, but I don't think that makes anyone better or a worse candidate. It's you handle what is given to you, and you play the cards that are dealt to you. And I think that I would make a great circuit court judge just based on my ability to understand the law and appreciate the law, appreciate the Constitution, not go in there with agenda. I'm not beholden to anybody. There's nobody that's going to come out and say, hey, you owe me this, because guess what? I don't. And I'm never going to be that way. I'm always going to call things as I see it and as the law provides. And that's one thing I have going for me, along with numerous others. It's my relationships with people, my ability to talk to anybody, my ability to, talk to someone I've never met before and explain things to them, and my compassion, understanding. Not everyone that comes in there is, a hardened criminal, or some people just make bad decisions, and I understand that. And that's kind of what the prosecuting and the defense side, by working on both sides, has given me the ability to understand. I understand both sides. I understand how you have to interact with both. But as that position on the bench, it's your job to uphold what the law says and what the Constitution says, and make your decisions to keep. And then you also have to keep in mind public safety and the society as a whole. Do they benefit from these decisions if it's contrary to the law? So that's what I bring to the table. But the number one thing people are going to notice is the youth. And if that's a concern to anyone, I can assure you that I am a research rat, and I always look up things to get the answer myself, and ask questions to get other people's opinions on it. And I value other people's opinions. It's not my way or the highway. It's never been that way. But I will also not back down when I feel a certain way, unless the law provides otherwise. I'll admit when I'm wrong too. So you're going to get both sides on that.
Okay. I think that's really important, especially from a judge, the ability and willingness to admit that you got something wrong, or that, you may not be the arbiter of all knowledge everywhere. But we got a question, and it's actually a really good question. My wife, she works in the special needs community. She's a Medicaid waiver case manager. So her question is, as I think she means circuit court judge, how would you handle a defendant with special needs?
So as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, we deal with it too. So with special needs defendants, there's protections in place for certain needs, and that goes for special needs as far as mental health, anything, all the way to competency. I mean, you hear that word all the time in court, is competency. And there's protections in the court of law that we have to make sure that the people that are in front of us understand what's going on and can appreciate what they did. And there's tools that can be used to help understand that, appointing of special counsel. Like we went through something last year where even, I don't think Judge Alaviso's heard of it before, was a special public defender for people with autism. There's a program through the state where they will provide special counsel for people with autism. And there's very few of them, obviously, in the state that can do it, but those programs are available. And just, that's the problem, is a lot of people don't know about these things.
Exactly. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that at all. So that's good to know. So it sounds like the state has been kind of proactive in making these resources at least available, if not, educating people about them as much as maybe we could, but at least they are available. But it's the judge's job to know what programs are there, right? So if this person ends up in their court, they can go, hey, just so you know, you're entitled to this.
Correct.
Or is that more of a defense attorney thing?
Well, I mean, the defense attorney will bring it up because obviously when it comes to initial hearings and things like that, you ask at the beginning of every initial hearing, are you either a drug abuser, alcoholic, or suffer from any mental illness? And it's up to the defendant to, be truthful with that. They're under oath. So if we don't know, there's nothing we can do. But a lot of times with things like capacity when that comes up, mental capacity and competency.
Mhm.
It's something that we do have to notice. And if we notice it, or there's no harm in getting an evaluation just to make sure everyone is covered. It's not to cover the decisions that would be made by the attorneys. It's a decision to make sure that everyone's protected, because we don't know what's going on with everyone if they don't tell us, but it's our duty to look and be diligent on finding out.
Fair enough. That's really good answers, man. I can't fault your answers. I've been, looking for a little bit of area to push back or something, but you're killing it. So
Thank you.
So she obviously tuned in late. When you were a kid, did you want to be a judge? He covered that already. If you'd have been on time, you'd know, but it's my wife. I talk back all the time. I'll pay for it later, but that's all right.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he did. She was actually herding the cats out of here at the beginning. They always seem to really want to bother me when I'm about to do a show. So
yeah, that's what cats do, right?
That's what cats do. I love my cats, but they can definitely be irritating. So what do you think is the main failing right now? And I'm not talking about specifically Alavizos' court, because we covered that, and there's some areas of improvement there, but in general about our court system, both in Northwest Indiana and the U.S. itself, that are like, okay, I see serious problems here, and here's how we can address them.
Sure. So the number one thing that I can promise, I can't make promises on legal issues and things like that, or any promises that I have to keep. But one of the promises I can make is efficiency and time. I am always a person that's 30 minutes early to everything. So one thing that we can improve is time. Now, it's not been an issue ever in circuit court. If court starts at 8:30 in circuit court, you're there at 8:30. There's been courts that I've gone to in other counties, Lake County and Porter County, where if it starts at 8:30, you better be there at 8:28.
Yep.
So that's always a big thing for me, is punctuality. You're not gonna see me on that bench any later than 8:30, unless there's an emergency issue, obviously, but that'll be addressed. Yeah. The other thing is efficiency, is just the amount of cases that penned, and none of it is really anyone's fault necessarily. It's just cases penned for a long time, and then people pick up more cases, and you can't dispose of the older cases because they've got new ones. So it's really just addressing the backlog of cases. And that just happens. I mean, it's you could look at it on a graph. I mean, you'll have summers that are real busy, summers that are real down, winters. So it matters how many cases are filed. And I've seen that from both sides, prosecutor side and defense side. It's our public defenders and defense attorneys are bogged down right now. They're bogged down with stuff. Same with our prosecutors. And the issue there is finding attorneys in the area. So since Valparaiso Law School's closed down, we've really lost that hotbed of, we could pull people out. They were young and brand new, but perfect person. They're local, come on over, and we could mold them into defense attorneys and prosecutors, but we just don't have that anymore. We have to go out of county. We have to pay a lot more to get people to come here. So that's one of the biggest issues now, is just lack of attorneys. And that's what causes this backlog, because the last thing the court wants to do is force someone into, dealing with an attorney they don't want to, or representing themselves, so it's kind of a dichotomy there that has to be weighed to decide, what do we do to get these cases moving, but at the same time ensure that people's due process isn't failed.
Right. Because we are entitled to a speedy trial under the law. And there's a reason why so many plea deals happen, because we do have such a backlog in our court systems. I'm glad you recognize that. It's going to take work from everyone, but you brought up a good point, and that is LaPorte County isn't known for its salaries. I mean, we don't have the kind of money here in LaPorte County that we can pay exorbitant rates for attorneys just to draw them over. And with Valpo Law closing down, do you think there's going to have to be some, budget addressment that's going to happen for the pay scale? Or do you think that there are other options available to us?
Right now, I mean, that would be a great question for Sean. He deals with the budgets all the time and is always talking about them. But I can tell you that, yeah, I mean, budgets, they're working with what they have right now.
Right. Right.
And they're doing everything they can. I mean, we have right now in my current position as chief deputy prosecutor, we have just a team of wonderful prosecutors. You know, I'm not afraid to have any of them in court covering anything because, you know, I have to put my trust in them. And we've got just a great team. Our high felony team is stellar. One of the other candidates for circuit court judge, Julianne Havens, you know, that's another one. She works in circuit court now as a high felony deputy. And, you know, she's one of the ones we rely on. So there's a lot of people we have to rely on, but yeah, I mean, at some point pay is going to keep going up, but the you know, it's the supply and demand. You know, we've got a huge demand, but the supply is way low. So we got to, as a county, have to fork over to make sure that, you know, justice is done in LaPorte County. But you know, once the new judge is sworn in, you know, I hope it's me. We'll have to deal with it the same way they've been dealing with it for the last few years, and just ensure that everyone's due process is followed, speedy trials are followed, court's not congested. We can get rid of this backlog, but it's things that can be done, and they've already tried a lot of things, but there are things that can be done, I believe, that, you know, that we can get done to make sure that these cases move along.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're not in charge of the budget. I was just wondering of, you know, your opinion on it, whether it would take more, or if there was, you know, something that could be done, I guess, without addressing that. And I know that's more of a question for either Mr. Fagan or more particularly the council, considering they handle the budgets. But
Sure.
Liz has a question. Will you continue youth wellness court?
Absolutely. It's sad.
I don't know anything about that. So
the youth wellness court is held on Thursdays, and it's made to address different risks of juveniles, and kind of like what I said, the diversion. It's kind of like a diversion program. So for adults, we have things like substance abuse court, which is the I can't think of the name for it right now, but they call it drug court.
Yeah.
Then there's reentry court, there's veterans court. So there's all these different court alternatives for people that, you know, aren't necessarily, like, none of these people are bad people,
right,
for the most part, but they just get in bad situations like addiction and things like that. So we have court systems set up to where, hey, essentially you enter a plea into this case, and under the understanding you're going to drug court, which is a weekly court where you come check in, you do drug tests. They help with rehabilitation. They help pay for a lot of things as far as rehabilitation goes in different programs. Okay. But they monitor these defendants and addicts to make sure that they're following the rules. And at the end of it, if they follow the rules successfully, and it's a rigorous program that's monitored by Judge Friedman, it's a rigorous program that has been very beneficial. And going to those graduations and seeing the people graduate is just a site that I would recommend anybody go to, just to see somebody, you know, a true story, a good story of where they came from to go through these programs. So the Youth Wellness Court is something similar to where we get our youths in there, and we check on them, make sure they're following the rules, and the same typical situation like with the drug court. At the end of that, if you follow through with everything, your cases get dismissed and you can finally start to rebuild your life with the tools provided to you.
Okay, so it's much more about not necessarily rehabilitation, although I would think that would, you know, come into it, obviously, but it's more about making sure that people get on the right path and off of the self-destructive path that they're on. And I guess utilizing the resources that are available to give them as much help as possible to do so.
Exactly. And a lot of these programs are funded with state money. So a lot of it's not coming from county taxpayers. So these programs are set up to where state grants come in and pay for a lot of things. They'll even pay for the attorneys. So all of these courts have a defense attorney and a prosecutor presence. Mr. Fagan is the prosecutor presence in the Youth Wellness Court. And that's something I would like to continue, because it goes with the juvenile justice system. And that's, you know, I want to add a lot to the juvenile system while not taking anything from, you know, our adult system. But I've recognized a need, and it's something I'm really passionate about.
Okay. Do you think that it's possible? And I know this might get a little esoteric and maybe not you may not know, which is fine. But do you think it's possible to initiate or bring back a system like Scared Straight or something like that here in LaPorte County, Indiana in general, period?
Sure. I mean, I think it's possible. I don't know. You're right. I think it's possible, but I don't know.
I don't know what's involved in it. I have no idea.
I don't know. And I don't know that that's the best tool anymore.
I don't either. Yeah, it's just something I was thinking of.
Sure. I remember the show, and it did seem to work, but I think there's other forms of less I guess intense forms of it. Like success stories is something that we've talked about. You know, like let's show people the success stories of people that have gone through the juvenile system and now look at them where they are. Yeah. As opposed to just like, this could be your life, you know, you're going to end up here. Like, sure, that could work. I mean, that would work for me. I know that. But we're dealing with, you know, we're dealing with different generations and different use. You have to approach them with kid gloves sometimes. And I think that's the more likely approach other than a Scared Straight program, but maybe somewhere in the middle would be something that would work as well.
Okay. So it sounds like you're open to whatever works. Basically, you're not just decided, this sucks and this is good. It's more of I'm willing to try a lot of things and see what sticks.
100%. And then, I mean, the team that's there now in circuit court, as far as the juvenile system goes, is incredible. I mean, there's a person there named Chip that is just master grant writer. The guy can get a grant for anything. So he'll find it. He'll write the grants. We'll get the funding. We'll put it into programs. The money's there from the state, not from the county. Let's use it and use it to benefit our county without our county taxpayers having to do anything.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people get caught up on the costs of a lot of these programs, right? These people committed a crime. They deserve to be in jail. And I'm here to tell you, not everyone who commits a crime, A, does so intentionally, B, deserves to go to jail for it, or even is the best option for them. Now, when I was a kid, I did stupid stuff and I did go to county jail, and it straightened me right the heck out. But that's not the proper solution for everyone. And like you said, there are addicts, there are people who are in unique circumstances that these programs, like, you send them to jail, they're going to go to jail, they're going to lose a bunch of stuff, they're going to come out, they're going to go back to using, they're going to go back in the system, and it's a cycle. But with alternative options that you say it primarily are paid by the state or other grants, it's not taking anything from the taxpayers, and it's actually helping us because we have a lower population in prison and a lower jail, and then a lower population in prison. And there are other programs that do cost taxpayer money that are held at jails and prisons.
Sure. And you know, I can hear my dad in my ear, figuratively, like on my shoulder, telling me, well, that state money's coming from us too. But right. But it's different than at the county level. That state money, you know, they operate so well down there as far as surpluses go that the money's there.
And I do want to point out that state money's going somewhere. It might as well be LaPorte County.
100%.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is the best thing about being a judge?
The best thing about being a judge, I think, is just your closeness with the law and with the Constitution. Like, it's what us as attorneys, you know, that's what we do. That's what we have to live by. And another thing is kind of the ethical obligation. So everything we do as attorneys is based on ethics. Anything that looks improper or feels improper, we don't do it. If it even gives us a glimpse of impropriety, we back out. We don't want, our reputation is everything.
Right.
Okay. So I've done everything I can to just uphold my reputation. And as a judge, that just gets more strict. Now there's judicial ethics you have to follow. And the best thing about being a judge for me is just working with the people in LaPorte County to ensure that, hey, if you're in here as a defendant, you're going to get a fair trial. We're going to follow the law. We're going to follow the process. Everything's going to be done by the book. And the book is the Constitution and our rules of evidence, state and federal Constitution. And on the other side, society can know that justice will be served as long as it meets the proper burdens and as long as it follows the law. So it's twofold. You know, you could be in the process as a defendant or a society, and that's the best part I feel about being a judge, is that it is my responsibility to protect both sides in this and make sure that everything's done and it's done in the proper way.
Okay. Okay. Some judges go in with maybe it's even unconscious sometimes, but some are pretty blatant. But they go in with a bias either towards the prosecution or the defense. Just in general, I know every case is different, and there are going to be those people who are like, yeah, you deserve to spend the rest of your life in prison because you're, just that kind of person. But they kind of come to the bench with a chip on their shoulder against like the prosecution. You'll have some of these activist judges, right, that basically want to set everyone free. And then you have the opposite of it, where this person believes that if the state brings a case, it's obviously this person should be convicted. And based on everything you've said, you uphold a higher standard, which is Constitution reigns supreme. The facts of the matter are what's important. And it doesn't sound like, because you've been defense and prosecutor, you don't necessarily have that bias.
Sure. And I mean, bias is a natural thing for everybody, right? No matter what the scale is. But I think my work on both sides has allowed me to see it from both sides and know that I know what both sides are thinking and what they're going through. I have no access to grind. Like I said earlier, I'm beholden to nobody, and it's not going to matter to me, prosecution or defense. It's going to matter what the facts present and what the ruling should be based on the law. So that's not a worry to me as far as bias goes, and I've never felt that in our courts.
Okay.
But it's a question, in every trial that defense and prosecutors ask every juror. Hey, everyone here has a bias, right? Not one person wants to raise their hand, but then when we explain what we mean, like, yeah, sure, you have a bias about something. Everyone does.
Yeah.
And then they explain it, and we explain it. And it's not that we're looking for them, to say something off the wall. Yeah. We just want to know if they're the right person for this. Right. And that's what a judge should be, is the right person to handle everything. And if as far as cases go, because obviously everybody that's running for this position has practiced in circuit court at some point. So there's going to be conflicts that arise, and we have to recognize that. And as a judge, it's your responsibility to say, hey, I have a conflict in this. It may not be a direct conflict, but I don't feel comfortable doing this case. And then you send the case out of your court.
So yeah, a recusal.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So that was actually going to be one of my next questions is, whether you think that, whether you would have problems with recusing yourself if something even gives the appearance of impropriety or the appearance of an issue.
Sure. Absolutely not. I mean, I've done that my entire legal career. If something, the general rule is if something doesn't feel good, it's not good. Even if it looks like, because I think about that with everything I do as an attorney. What would people think about this? Why am I thinking this? There must be something. So then I distance myself from it. But there's obviously going to be conflicts that arise, and yes, I will be ready to recuse when I have to, because that's what we have to do. That's the things we have to uphold.
Fair enough. We have a question from Madeline. Says, would you consider bringing back teen court or something similar?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's something that I feel would help the community, I would. I mean, I remember that program was pretty cool, because the kids in the high school got to, do the whole trial process. They were the jury, prosecutor, defendants, and it was for really low level stuff. But they were guided by experienced attorneys and a judge. So it was just a really cool process for kids to come in and see how the legal process works for real, and know that what they were doing mattered. So that would be something I would be interested in bringing back if it's available, and if we have the resources to be able to do it, because it is cool to get people interested in the law too. It's a thing a lot of people think is boring, but it's what literally makes the country go around.
Yes, I agree, especially, and I understand if you can't comment on this, but a lot of people recently have kind of been paying more attention to the legal system, right? With the prosecution on the East Coast of Trump, with all the stuff that's going on with that. I understand the issues there, but one thing that makes me happy is personally, I like that people are now paying attention. I like that people are focusing and going, okay, some of these judges are not necessarily the kind of people that we want on the bench because they bring a personal axe to grind. That's one reason why I felt it was really important to, I guess, understand where you're coming from as far as wanting to be a judge. And,
Mhm.
you know, I don't think okay. Yeah. This is the question that I wanted to ask. So just so everyone knows, everyone who's watching, has George Soros written you a check?
No, he is
Okay.
not. No, he is not. And that's one thing with, you know, I know it was a satirical question, but no, he is not. And secondly, everyone that's donated to my campaign and my opponent's campaigns, you're going to see it on a campaign finance report. So you're going to see, you know, the names of people that have donated, but that's to help my campaign. I can't reach out to anyone directly and solicit donations. I haven't. And, you know, my campaign does that for me. And that's a special rule for judges. It's because it doesn't want the appearance of impropriety that, hey, so-and-so donated, you're going to treat them differently. I'm not. It doesn't matter. It's, you know, you can't buy me with money. And that's one thing. My morals will never change. You know, I can make that promise to you. My morals will not change. I am who I am. You know, if you like it, awesome. If you don't, it is what it is. But I work for the law and for the people, and that's what I'll always do.
Awesome. Sounds good. So I'm not, maybe you can help on this. Okay. So hypothetical situation, right? A person gets removed from the ballot, right, by the election commission, but they're planning on appealing it. Does that go to Superior Court or does that go to a different court somewhere else?
It depends on what venue is proper.
Okay.
So I believe that, so I was on the election board for 3 years as the Republican appointee. So I dealt with these campaign challenges and things like that all the time. So they would go to a local judge because that would be the proper venue and jurisdiction. But generally with elected officials, chances are they may know that certain elected official. But if you feel that, you know, that just merely knowing them is not a reason for you to recuse, then you don't have to recuse, because, you know, your job is to read the case law, and listen to the arguments, and follow the law and what the situation is. So yeah, it would go to circuit court, but I believe it could be filed in any of the superior courts too.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. I was curious about that because we kind of had a little conversation about it, me and a couple of people I know, regarding a challenge like that, where the person said, well, I'm going to appeal. And it's like, well, how does that work? Because the election board, I mean, it's a formal proceeding, but it's not exactly a court. It's, you know, a little different. So is there a higher version of that, or how does that work? So yeah, it sounds
go ahead. Yeah. So the election board makes their decision, because that's the power granted to them by the state, and it's by statute. And the Indiana Election Division. So the election board is governed by the Secretary of State and the Indiana Election Division to follow. And there's a huge book we have to read to determine all this. And when I was in the election board, I thought it was, you know, interesting how much power they give the election board on certain things. But once the election board makes their decision, there's always a higher place it can go for appeal, all the way up to the Supreme Court, obviously. Okay. So when you're dealing with ballots and campaign challenges, it's time is of the essence, because ballots have to be printed by a certain day. So, you know, if a judge gets the case and can take it in a timely manner, they do it. And if that decision isn't right, they can keep appealing it higher. But at some point, it's going to become moot because we're past all the deadlines.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. Is there anything? Well, first of all, let me make sure that I run this. If you guys look, we've got Chuck Watterson running for judge here. And do you prefer Chuck, Charles?
I think everyone knows me as Chuck. Charles is just my legal name, but you know, it's
your government name.
Yeah, it's my government name, and I'm the fourth of the Charles Wattersons. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But I go as Chuck just to avoid confusion when we're all eating dinner.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So to learn more about this esteemed gentleman, make sure that you go to his website, wattersonforjudge.com, or you can look him up on Facebook, Chuck Watterson for LaPorte Circuit Court Judge. There. Yeah. I almost
kind
messed
of
it
a
up.
mouthful. Yeah.
It is a little bit of a mouthful, but it should be pretty easy. Once you start putting it in, it should auto populate. Is there anything else that you want people to know about you or about you running for this, or just anything in particular?
Sure. I want the people to know that I am going to work for this. And if elected, I will continue that work. You're not just going to see me disappear from talking to people. My work is going to continue if elected. And my goal is just a fair and impartial justice. You know, it's cliche, but that's truly how I feel. I want everything to be affordable for everybody in the community. I don't want the amount of money you have or your certain position in life to determine what kind of justice you get. If you're in front of me, you're going to get fair and impartial, and you're going to get what the law says. And that's for everybody, not for certain individuals. And my morals, like I said earlier, are never going to be something that's going to be questioned. And that's something I've really prided myself in my entire life, is knowing that if I say something, people can expect it to be done or at least upheld. So my reputation is everything as an attorney. I've done nothing to damage that yet that I know of, and I don't want to risk that ever. So, and I also want people to know that I'm approachable. Come talk to me about anything. If I can talk to you about it during this campaign process, I'm going to. But there's certain things that if I don't answer, it's because I can't. It's not because I'm being rude, but I'll explain it to you that, listen, I would love to answer that for you, but I can't. Here's why. So just know that that's something we have to do as candidates for a judicial office, because it's such a esteemed position. I don't mean that in a egotistical way. It's a position it's esteemed for a reason, because it's in making decisions that are very important and affect people's lives, whether it's their liberty, finances. It affects their lives a great deal, and I will take that very seriously if elected. And I'm LaPorte proud. I've said that again, time and time again. I respect our community. I love everyone involved in it, and I'll do everything I can to protect both sides of our community, to make sure that people can be safe at night, and also know that if they get hemmed up, that they're getting fairness on every aspect of the process.
I'm really, like, I said this a few times, but I really do mean it. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because we have seen in this country, especially recently, a two-tiered justice system, where usually those with money tend to be able to, and I understand you hire a fancy lawyer. That's just how it is. But even some judges, although they're definitely a minority, like the bad cops or the bad correctional officers or the bad whatever, the majority of people in all these fields are good people, but it's the tiny percent that do bad stuff that make the headlines. I'm glad to hear you say that justice has no price, and it doesn't matter what your financial background is. When you come to court, you're there, and it's going to be impartial, and it's going to be fair.
Exactly. And I'm sure all judges say that before they get elected, right? And all people say that before it happens. But my reputation to me is worth way more than any amount that you could offer me. And that's the one thing that I know I will always have is my reputation. I don't want to do anything to damage that.
Good. Listen, it's been a real pleasure having you on. You got a lot of views, man. So that's awesome. I have not had an opportunity to interview anyone else that's also running yet, but I will say this: major props to you for coming on the show and having a conversation and giving people an opportunity to talk to you. You come off as very approachable. You come off as very nice. And I think that that's important, but it sounds like you have a not just a history, but obviously you have experience, but it sounds like your heart's in the right place when it comes to being a judge and wanting to do the right thing with it.
And thank you very much for having me and giving the people this platform to hear from candidates and hear from everybody. And, everyone's got a voice, and we love to hear it. And I thank you for letting them hear mine.
Absolutely. And hopefully, if you go on to the general, we'd love to have you on again and give you an opportunity to directly, I guess, compare yourself with whoever your opponent is on that side.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's Chuck Watterson. To learn more about him, make sure you visit his webpage or his Facebook. And just my personal opinion, sounds pretty awesome. Like I said, I haven't talked to either of the other two. I think there's total of three or four in the Republican primary. For those of you who are going to pull Republican ballots, this is really freaking important, guys. Like, really important. As a matter of fact, the majority of races, especially here in LaPorte County, are the primary election is the election. A lot of people don't make it to the general, and in some cases, people who would have been the best choice. So make sure pull a ballot in the primary and vote for the person that you believe will be the best option. Like I said, we have 2 or 3 running. I'm not sure exactly how many in the Republican primary. I don't know about the Democrat primary. I have a list somewhere. I didn't look at it, but the judge is one of the most critical, crucial positions on the ballot, and it's up this year. Yeah, you got president, you got this, you got that. You're going to notice a lot more effect locally from choosing your judge. And I mean that. Look at what the hell happened in New York. Look at what's going on in Georgia with Fani Willis. Look at what's happening in New York with that crazy or whatever his name is with Trump. Regardless of how you feel, it's a weaponization of the Justice Department. And these are the kind of things that we have to stop. And the only way we're going to stop that is by electing the proper judges and the proper DAs. That's it. So I hope everyone had an opportunity to get your questions answered. If you didn't, it's been posted for a week with the email for you to email me. I got a couple of questions that I was able to present. Some were not appropriate. Come on, guys. I don't care what he wears under the judge's robes. I know some of you do, but tell you what, maybe we'll save that one for the general. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, I appreciate your time. God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.